So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all the professors and dignitaries present over here. My topic is related to corporate finance. It is spin-off and corporate financial performance in emerging market and evidence from India. Myself, Samar Banerjee, Assistant Professor in Commerce, St. Xavier's University, Kolkata, and Research Scholar at University of Burdwan. And my supervisor name is Dr. Devdas Rakshit, Professor of Commerce, University of Burdwan. So I'll be starting with a basic introduction of what is spin-off. So I'll just give an example. For example, if we talk about ITC Limited, we all know ITC expertises in a lot of fields like hospitality, tobacco industry also. If ITC, for supposedly, it separates its tobacco division and makes it a separate entity. So this process is called a demerger or a spin-off. When from a parent corporation, a spun-off corporation or separate entity is being formed. So that is basically a spin-off. So basically, in this study, we'll see how the process of spin-off affects the financial performance of the Indian companies. For that purpose, we have done few literature reviews where we have seen most of the researchers have focused previously on the merger and the leveraged buyout. And very few researchers have focused on the process of demerger, but specifically with respect to the shareholders' wealth. So none of them have focused specifically on the financial performance perspective, which is basically our research gap over here. So this study is unique as it compares the impact of the demerged entities with non-demerged entities of the same industry to analyze whether the impact of spin-off is specifically influencing the demerged undertakings or not. So to start off with the objectives, we have segregated our objectives into three parts because since we are analyzing the impact of spin-off on the financial performance, we will analyze the financial performance from the perspective of liquidity, from the perspective of long-term solvency, and the perspective of profitability, as these three are the most important parameters of analyzing or measuring the financial performance. Now, in our research methodology, we have taken 10 sample demerged companies from 10 different industries. And the period of study is from 2011-12 to 2018-19. Now, the next rationale behind such period selection is that since from 2007-8 to 8-9, there has been a global financial crisis. So our objective was to totally eliminate the global financial crisis. So we have started the study from 2011-12. And since all of us know about the pandemic that has happened and that is still now going on in few parts of the world, the COVID-19, which has started from 1920, so we have restricted our period of study till 2018-19. Now, as we have already said that we'll be focusing on the liquidity perspective, long-term solvency. So gradually, for the purpose of our study, we have taken current ratio and quick ratio as measures of liquidity. Long-term debt equity ratio and total debt to asset ratio as measures of long-term solvency, and return on capital employed, that is ROC, and return on equity as measures of profitability. Now, over here, we have seen the impact from two perspectives. One is the immediate impact, that is the short-term impact. The second one is the sustainable impact, that is the long-run impact. So to analyze the immediate impact, we have taken a time period of 1 year prior to spin-off and 1 year immediately after the spin-off. Similarly, for the sustainable impact, we have taken a time period of 3 years prior to spin-off and 3 years after spin-off. And we have analyzed the impact from the perspective of both the demerged undertakings during the period of study and the non-demerged control companies in order to compare that whether the effect of spin-off is specifically on the demerged undertakings only, and it is not affecting so much the control non-demerged undertakings. And the methodology that we have applied over here is a sample pair t-test. Now, we are starting off with the hypothesis. So starting off with the profitability part, so we have analyzed the hypothesis that there is no significant difference between the ROC, that is the return on capital employed, of the first year immediately after demerger and the ROC of the last year prior to demerger for both the demerge and control undertakings. The second hypothesis, there is no significant difference between the average ROC, this is for the sustainability part, of the post-demerged period and the average ROC of the pre-demerger period of both the demerge and the control undertakings. The third hypothesis relates to ROE, which is another parameter of profitability, that there is no significant difference between the ROE of the first year immediately after demerger and the ROE of the last year prior to demerger for both the demerge and the control undertakings. Again, the last hypothesis on the profitability, where there is no significant difference between the average ROE of the post-demerger period and the average ROE of the pre-demerger period of demerge and control companies. So over here, the average is being taken to analyze the sustainability of the 3-year time period. Second, the second hypothesis is analyzing the long-term solvency, where we are seeing that there is no significant difference between the long-term debt equity ratio of the first year after demerger, immediately after demerger, and the last year prior to demerger for both the demerge and the control companies. Similarly, we have taken the average long-term debt equity ratio to see whether the post-demerger period and the pre-demerger period impact is different or not. Similarly, for the seventh hypothesis, we have taken the total debt to asset ratio to see the immediate impact, where the time period has been taken for only 1 year, and the sustainable impact, where we have taken an average of both the total debt to total asset ratio for both the demerge and the control companies. And finally, the last hypothesis relates to liquidity part. So there is no significant difference between the current ratio of the first year after demerger and the last year prior to demerger for both the demerge and the control non-demerged companies. Similarly, the 10th one, that there is no significant difference for the average current ratio of the post-demerger period and the average current ratio of the pre-demerger period for both the demerge and control companies. Similarly, we have done the same thing for the quick ratios. Now we will see that whether there is a difference between the pre-demerger period and the post-demerger period, or there is no difference, right? So we'll start off with the results and discussion. So after applying the sample pair t-test, we have seen that we can see over here that in case of the spun off entity, in case of the immediate impact, the significant value, the p value over here is 0.0358. So we can say that the impact of spin-off on the spun off entity, the immediate impact is significant at 5% level of significance. But in case of the rest of the things, that is in case of the control company and the sustainable impact of spun off company, we can see that it is not significant. Similarly, for the next part, that is ROE, we can see again for the immediate effect for the spun off companies, it is significant at 10% level of significance. But for the other cases, it is totally not significant. So in case of both ROC and ROE, which are the indicators of profitability, we can see only in case of the immediate impact, the impact of spin-off is statistically significant. Next, coming to the long-term debt equity ratio, we can see that it is totally insignificant for all the levels. That is for both the immediate and sustainable, for both the spun-off and control companies. For the total debt to total asset ratio, again, the immediate impact for the spun-off companies is specifically statistically significant at 5% level of significance. So again, we can see the immediate portion is statistically significant. Next, coming to the current ratio, that is the measures of liquidity, we can see again it is 0.0299. For the rest of the portion, it is statistically insignificant, but for the immediate part, it is statistically significant. And finally, for the spun-off companies, in case of the immediate, in case of the quick ratio, again the impact is statistically significant at 5% level of significance in case of the quick ratio. Now, coming to the conclusion, it is very normal that from the results and discussion only we can just analyze the conclusion, because in most of the cases, we have seen that the impact of spin-off is statistically significant only in case of the immediate impact. So in terms of profitability, we can suggest that spin-off has a significant immediate impact on both the ROC and ROE, but in the long run, spin-off or demerger may not be a good decision for improving profitability in terms of ROE and ROC, as it is not statistically significant. For long-term solvency, spin-off has insignificant sustainable impact on both the long-term debt equity ratio and total debt to asset ratio. But in case of the short-run period, that is for the immediate impact, it is statistically significant only in case of the total debt to total asset ratio. For short-term solvency or liquidity, which is the most important thing for an undertaking or for a concern, spin-off has a significant immediate impact on both the current ratio and the quick ratio. So after analyzing the entire research, we can suggest that the impact of spin-off, the immediate impact for a short-term period of 1 year of spin-off on both the profitability, long-term solvency, and short-term solvency is statistically significant. Thank you, everyone.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Brian Jester S. Balmeo, the Senior Education Program Specialist in Planning and Research of the Schools Division of Zambales, Central Luzon, Philippines. The title of my presentation is Continuous Development of Research Programs and Practices of a Schools Division in the Philippines, a 7-year program evaluation. Next slide, please, ma'am. Thank you. Although DepEd or Department of Education has exerted its efforts in encouraging its teachers about the importance of research in their field, many teachers in both elementary and secondary schools were still uninterested and demotivated because there are so many things that the teachers need to do here in the Philippines. They are so stressed, and sometimes they do not have any time to do research anymore. Uh, Teaching workloads and other teaching related factors are just few of the reasons why some public school teachers are not motivated and have no interest to do research. So for them, conducting research is another waste of time or just another burden for them to do. That is why they are demotivated to do it. In the schools division of Zambales, efforts have been made to make sure that the research culture will continue to flourish. However, a program evaluation on its performance is needed to identify its strengths and weaknesses for its continuous improvement. Therefore, this research aims to evaluate the research performance of the schools division of Zambales for the last 7 years. So the main purpose of this research is to evaluate research performance of schools division of Zambales from 2015 to 2021. Specifically, the research sought to answer the following questions. What is the performance of the schools division of Zambales in research from 2015 to 2021? Which districts are producing quality research studies as reflected in the annual research congress in the last 7 years? What trends in research were evident during the 7-year period? What are the best practices implemented in the schools division of Zambales? What is the implication of this study in the continuous improvement of research policies and practices in the schools division? And in view of the foregoing data and evidence, what strategic research action plan can be formulated? Next slide, please, ma'am. Thank you. So the present research employed descriptive evaluative research design. The draft of the research was subjected to editing in both technical and content aspects by our chief, the education program supervisor, and an education program specialist. So it was again conducted in the schools division of Zambales, Central Luzon, Philippines. And we have used the following instruments: the annual reports for the last 5 years, the schools division memoranda pertaining to research congress, and reports from the planning and research unit. Next slide, please, ma'am. So on the under results and discussion, you can see on the screen the performance of the schools division of Zambales in research from 2015 to 2021. In terms of capacity building programs conducted in the division for the last 7 years, we can see that the programs conducted in the division from 2015 to 2019 increased by 11 times, with 2015 having 3 capacity building programs to 2019 with 33. So there is a pattern found in the data that caused the increase of programs conducted. This is the establishment of the schools division research support team in 2018. That is why you can see the sudden increase of capacity building programs in 2018. However, you can also see or notice zero data in the year 2020, which is the pandemic era. No? Next, under research outputs submitted for the last 7 years, you can see that the highest there is 197, which is in 2019. Again, because of the establishment of the Schools Division Research Support Team, which is one of our innovation. However, we are still struggling, in conducting research outputs after the pandemic happened. Under external participation and internal publication and external publication, we still have to improve our data as seen on the table, which will be reflected also in the research action plan. Next slide, please, ma'am. Under districts producing quality research studies, Subic District dominated the other districts in terms of research performance. So it ranked first among all indicators mentioned in this study. So we can actually say that Subic, which is one of the district in Zambales, is the center of research excellence in the schools division of Zambales. Next slide, please, ma'am. For research trends for the last 7 years, out of the 558 research outputs produced, 339 were classified in this study. Teaching and learning got the big chunk of this, so majority of the research outputs or topics fall under teaching and learning with 85.21%. Next is governance with 7.02%, although there is a very wide margin on this. Third is human resource development with 6.27%. However, the last theme um, on the topics um, produced by the division of Zambales is child protection with 1.5% only. So among the research topics, teaching and learning resources, strategies for kindergarten to grade 3, students' achievement and competencies, teaching reading and numeracy, values and behavior, bullying, employees' welfare, mentoring support, and partnership and engagement were the top picks or the commonly used topics in research for the last 7 years. For our best practices or our innovations, we have our best. First is boosted research productivity through the Division Research Management Guidelines. So the Schools Division of Zambales produced a Schools Division Research Management Guidelines to guide all researchers in the division, district, and school level in the management and conduct of all research initiatives. Next is the establishment of Schools Division Research Support Team. So in 2018, the Schools Divisions of Zambales established SDRST or Schools Division Research Support Team to assist the division office in empowering its personnel in conducting research. So this is a division-wide capacity building of all personnel in the division of Zambales. Next is strengthen capacity building in all governance levels. And lastly is teaching and learning as a priority research area, which we have mentioned a while back. In terms of implications of the study, the creation of the Schools Division Research Support Team paved the way to more school and district initiated research trainings. There is an increasing number of personnel that are conducting research studies, but it is not enough. I think only 3% of all personnel conduct research as of 2021. There is no established support mechanism for teacher researchers who want to present their studies outside the department. The schools division's failure to produce the DepEd Zambales Research Journal made the number for internal publication extremely low. There is no established support mechanism for teacher researchers who want to publish their studies outside the department. The District of Subic is undoubtedly the center of research excellence in the schools division of Zambales. Districts that were least performing in terms of research need further assistance. Teaching and learning dominantly conquered the other themes as it recorded 85% of the total outputs conducted from 2015 to 2021. And lastly, evidence suggests that the research culture in the schools division is flourishing, but difficulties due to the new normal significantly hinder this growth. Next is this is the proposed frame this is the proposed framework of the division education research agenda. So we have produced this through the help, of course, of our findings. And this will also lead to the crafting of the action research plan, which will be implemented in the schools division for the next 6 years. So we can see there the vision and the mission of the Department of Education, the goals and objectives of the Division Education Research Agenda, the DepEd Action, which is evidence-based policies, plans, programs, projects, and activities, and the Research Agenda, teaching and learning, child protection, human resource development, governance, DRRM, or disaster risk reduction, and inclusive education, and gender and development. So we have there on the next slide, we can see the different activities established because of the findings given. So we have the established functional research committees in schools and districts, created standards, criteria to become members of the schools division research team, increased rate of produced full paper, increased rate of published research in reputable research journals, increased rate of researchers presenting in research conferences, and set up research calendar in schools. Next is we have conclusions. Capacity building programs conducted in 2019 are 11 times higher than in 2015. There is a difference of 25 outputs produced in 2019 and 2015. There is no consistent pattern in the number of external participation in the schools division. Internal publication in 2015 is higher than all the other years combined. There is no consistent pattern in the number of external publication in the schools division. Subic, San Marcion, and Botolan are the top 3 performing districts, while Iba, San Felipe, and Palawig were the least performing. And lastly, teaching and learning as a research theme composed the 85% of the total research outputs from 2015 to 2019. For recommendations, the results of the study could be disseminated to higher officials in the schools division for possible revisiting of existing research policies and practices. It is recommended to conduct other research relevant to this study to further confirm its result. And third, formulate a strategic research action plan for a smooth conduct of research-related activities. So we have there the references. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Is there any queries the participants would like to ask?
This is Marwa Hassan. My presentation is entitled Biobank and the Personalized Medicine of Liver Diseases, Theodore Belhar's Research Institute Future Perspectives. There is a growing demand for competent biospecimens for research purposes. That's why the number of biobanks has been recently expanded dramatically. Advances in bioinformatics and large-scale storage of biospecimens and data necessitate the biobanks to standardize their processes and laws. Biobank refers to the collection of human biological material and data that's utilized or intended for use in research purposes. The biobanking of high-quality human biospecimens and related patient clinical, genetic, and epidemiological data is a key component of the scientific foundation for personalized medicine. Biobanks provide valuable materials for various areas of research studies, including biomarker development for early diagnosis, prognosis, and therapy response prediction, also applying personalized drug therapies. For optimizing the value of biospecimens, consistency in the methods used to retrieve, process, store, and transport samples is critical. This entails the application of agreed-upon SOPs, determination of the type, number, and size of samples, use and maintenance of appropriate storage containers, determination of storage temperature and the conditions, determination of the frequency of access to samples, proper identification of samples, and temperature monitoring. The future perspectives of TBRI Biobank includes the automation of sample management processes that meet the requirements for reliability, sample integrity, and the high throughput. This is a figure showing the report carrying files from storage trays and verifies it by barcode. This figure also shows the completely automated biospecimen processing and the storage in microtubes. And this is automated -80 degrees Celsius storage and retrieval. And thank you for allowing the opportunity to give this presentation. Thank you.
Will be about the visual pollution in the tourist sites. Nowadays, talking about the issues of visual distortion is no longer a mere intellectual luxury, as this issue enjoy special importance because of its direct impact in tourist sites. In fact, it's not only a matter of well-being and conditions for optimal life, but also an important life issues in human life that has economic, social, touristic, and educational dimension for residents and visitors alike. Generally, visual is what makes the eye disgust and repulsion if it falls on it, because it's against nature and harmful to the eye. While visual pollution is a term given to an unattractive visual element or anything else that a person does not want to look at. The visual pollution on heritage sites is subject to successive change as a result of rapid development in various economic, technological, and human aspects. One of the manifestation of visual pollution is the elimination of aesthetic manifestation in the sites. The essential threat of visual pollution lies in its connection in the first place with the loss of sense of beauty and the collapse of aesthetic consideration, satisfaction, and so on. The source of visual pollution and their manifestations can be monitored in the street, roads, and neighborhood of the tourist site through some of the following constructional manifestation. First, the contrast of the forms of establishments between the old and the modern in the same site. Second, the absence of aesthetic in some modern designs, which added to the site. The absence of the urban character and the distinctive architectural character of the city leads to a loss of sense of unity and the common values between the building. Another causes are, the main causes of visual pollution are economic, which lies in the lack of state's financial capabilities, which has led to the deterioration of the environment and the neglect of public hygiene and beautification of places and restoring to various solution to treat problems in a way that increases visual pollution. We have also another cause, which is environmental causes, which lies in neglecting protecting the environment, maintaining public cleanness, and removing infringements and works that pollute the environment, both healthy and visually. And also we have cultural causes. It concerns the wrong social behaviors and the deterioration of the level of public trust. Also, we have bad urban environment and cultural reasons as main issues which causes such visual pollution. Regarding the components of the urban scene and the culture or site, first we have the physical component, which is expressed in the appearance from the structure and spaces. Second, we have civilizational component. These components are concerned with the urban environment and how the element of the urban landscape of a traditional nature in the local or historical sites contributes to the character of the urban landscape. Act leading to such pollution are arbitrarily harming, harming public and private spaces. Those responsible for the vandalism should realize that this phenomenon is affecting the country's image in general, that transmitting of its character, altering the landscape and damaging the environment. To conclude, we can say that we believe that local government and individual and private sector must engage in the process of restructuring individual action that directly lead to visual pollution, such as throwing garbage in the street instead of throwing it in garbage bins, just as example, which may seem like simple change through it makes a positive differences in the actual application. Thank you for your passion and for the time that given me to prepare my computer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation.
Thank
If any queries are there, I would request others to please put it in the chat box. So
presentation concerning establishing a model of serum biobank for HCV patients. It's a pilot study. Infection with HCV is one of the leading causes of liver fibrosis, cirrhosis, and hepatocellular carcinoma. Egypt has the highest prevalence of HCV infection in the world. Although an important therapeutic advancement was achieved with the recent discovery of potent direct-acting antiviral agents against HCV, many infected patients still suffer from its dangerous complication. So there is a great need for early diagnostic and prognostic tools to prevent progression of liver diseases. There is a great need for combination of well-established clinical parameters and the incorporation of genetic molecular data into patient care is in sense of the definition of personalized medicine. There is also a great need for establishment of good infrastructure to link high-quality clinical data with advanced molecular and genetic technologies. A cornerstone to achieve this capacity is the development of biobank that can collect and maintain human biospecimen needed to support personalized medicine. What is the advantages of biobank? First, establishment of good infrastructure to link high-quality clinical data with advanced molecular and genetic technologies. Second, combination with well-established clinical parameters, the incorporation of genetic and molecular data into patient care in the sense of the definition of precision or personalized medicine. Disease-specific biobank have a great impact on the discovery of biomarkers, targeted drug developments, and in general research on treatment of the disease. What are these biomarkers? These biomarkers may be useful, provide useful information regarding molecular targets for the evidence-based development of new drugs and or diagnostic tool. It may be related to efficiency or adverse reaction of the drugs. These biomarkers can examine interaction between genetic and treatment factors related to the progression of the disease. and these biomarkers may provide important medical information that can be applied to the implementation of personalized medicine. The biobank aims to provide research groups with a platform of web-based socio-demographic information, detailed longitudinal clinical data, coupled with high-quality biological samples. What is the advantages of biobank? For researcher, there is no collection of time needed. This will lead to time saving, and it allows exchange of samples data with other biobanks and the biobank initiatives for studies. This will lead to the large pool of samples for studies and the harmonization of quality control system. The objective of GBRI Biobank to keep blood serum and buffy coat and RNA and DNA samples from patients having liver disease. Second, enabling the researchers to analyze detailed clinical information for respective and prospective studies. Third, discovering of non-invasive molecular and epigenetic markers that contribute to detection of liver diseases, and the interconnectivity with other biobank and the biobank entities. Outcomes, GBRI Biobank will participate in important of both public health and individual hepatic patients care. Long-term objective of the biobank is to bridge basic science, clinical data, and biospecimen storage to facilitate the integration of clinical, epidemiological, pathological, molecular, and genetic knowledge in disease research, and finally in clinical practice. Few years in the future, GBRI Biobank can release the high-quality samples associated with the clinical data to hepatic researchers in Egypt. They will access materials from GBRI Biobank through a defined stepwise research application process. Investigators will be asked to provide a summary of their protocol, budget, and ethics certificate prior to review by the management committee. Research approach and methodology. First, management and preparation phase, then material and equipment purchasing, then demographic and clinical data collection, followed by collection of blood samples, handling and storage procedures, data analysis and interpretation, and the finalization and the reporting. Test methods which will be addressed in the biospecimens, the whole blood have to be frozen at -80 if DNA extraction is if DNA extraction cannot be carried out immediately, and finally buffy code ideally storage at -150 degree for RNA stability. Genomic DNA should be quantitated and keep at 4 degrees centigrade to avoid freezing and thawing. Cellular RNA must be kept at -80. RPCs should be liquid and keep at -80. Thank you.
Sir, your voice is breaking. Could you please check your network?
Okay, okay. Can I start? Can I start this? There's no voice. Hello? Everyone my voice?
Yes, sir. It's a bit, it's breaking, but yes, sir, I could hear you.
Okay. I'm good now. The subtraction recognition of EQF transcription factors in head and squamous cell carcinoma and the construction of organized model. Head and squamous carcinoma is one of the most common malignant tumors in the head and neck, which is developed from the malignant transformation of mucous epithelial cells in the mouth, pharynx, and lungs. Although the treatment methods of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma are improving, the overall progress is still not ideal. So the cyclin-dependent kinase CDKRB12 regulatory axis constitutes the core transcription mechanism that drives the cell cycle process, determines the timing and accuracy of genomic replication, and ensures accurate transformation of genetic material. The final effector of this regulatory axis is a member of its different E2F gene families, including transcription activators and inhibitors. E2F effector is great significance for normal cell homeostasis and also has a role beyond the regulation of cell cycle. While it is out-balanced, it will lead to promoting cell apoptosis, angiogenesis, and metabolic abnormality, and even cancer. At present, the role of the E2F transcription factor in the progress guidance of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma still need to be studied. Therefore, we try to cluster and type based on the expression of E2F transcription factor in head and neck squamous cell carcinoma patients, construct a progress model according to the differential expression genes among subtypes, and verify its effectiveness, aiming to provide more strategies for the treatment of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma patients. In this study, we conducted consistent cluster analysis using E2F transcription factor in the HNSCC patient cohort of the American Cancer Genome Map database. HNSCC patients were divided into E2F transcription factor related subtypes, and there were several differences between the subtypes. Cluster 1 have a prognosis. We identified the progress factor using the differentially expressed genes between subtypes and further screened the model of prognostic signature by using lasso regression. The clinical information and expression data of HNSCC were obtained from the American Cancer Genome Map database. Tumor samples with both expression information and several information were returned for subsequent analysis. There are 8 E2F transcriptor factor genes used for analysis, E2F1 to E2F8. The patients were divided into high and low score groups according to the model score. The several rate of the patients in the high score group was lower than in the low score group, and the validation was successful in independent validation set. In the varied analysis, we showed that the scoring system of our model was an independent prognostic factor. In addition, we also discussed the correlation between the model score and the immune infiltration. In the process of comparing the infiltration status of high-risk groups in different immune cells, we found that the infiltration degree of macrophage M0 plasma cells and other immune cells was significantly different among patients in the different groups. based on GEO database prediction model was invalidated using dataset GSE 41613 of GPL 570 platform. Our software is used for all studies. Results. Based on the impression profiles of E2F transcription factor genes, the tumor samples of TCGA HNSCC were analyzed by consistency clustering analysis. Through PAC forum, the obtained classification number is 2. So the sample is divided into 2 types. It can seen from the KM survival curve that there is a significant difference in the survival curve of the sample prognosed between subtypes. The prognosis of class 2 is good, while that of cluster 1 is poor. The different expression analysis was conducted on the 2 types obtained from cluster, and a total of 211 differentially expressed genes were obtained. The functional enrichment analysis of 211 different differentially expressed genes were screened showed that these differentially expressed genes was mainly distributed in the intermediate midbrain and participate in biological processes such as the development of differentiation of epidermal cells through receptor ligand activation, signal receptor activator activation, and other functions. In order to evaluate the impact of differentially expressed genes on survival information, we conducted a universal cost regression analysis using differentially expressed genes with a threshold of 0.05. Universal cost analysis showed that 14 genes were significant prognostic factors. The dimension reduction of analysis of the above 14 prognostic factors were conducted through lasso regression analysis to establish a proscript model. This is the score model. To assess the predictive efficiency of prognostic model in 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year survival rates, we performed a time-related ROC analysis. The area under the ROC curve is 0.692 in 1 year, 0.673 in 3 year, and 0.679 in 5 year. In order to verify the stability of the model, the scores of each sample were also calculated in the GSE 41613 dataset. According to the median score, the head and neck squamous cell carcinoma samples was divided into high score group of low score group. Consistent with the result obtained in the TCGA cohort, patients in the high score group had a shorter survival time than those in the low risk group. In addition, in the prognostic model, the AUC is 1 year is 0.719. In 3 years is 0.666, and in 5 years is 0.691. By analyzing the correlation between the scores and the clinical characteristics of patients with HNSCC, we found that there were significant differences in the score between the clinical characteristics groups of patients with HPV negative and positive, as well as different molecular types of HNSCC. In order to further explore the correlation between scores and immune status, SIBO sort was used to qualify different immune cell subsets, and the red sum test was used to compare the significance of infiltration between groups. We found that the infiltration degree of macrophages, master cell activated plasma cells, and CD4 positive T cells, marine resident cells were significantly different in the high and low score groups. Conclusions. In a word, our model is effective and may provide drug guidance for patients and a reference for immunotherapy in the future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was wonderful.
Today's topic of my research is activation of macro anti-user neuroinflammation induced glial cell vascular ARF and DAP adapter T3 experience after neural injury. Background spinal cord injury is a serious and destructive disease of the nervous system. After the spinal cord injury, the uncontrollable neural inflammation initiated by activated macula elicits a permanent secondary injury. However, the study has shown this drug has no significant inhibitory effect on neural inflammation and has many side effects. Therefore, it's urgent to find a targeted drug to incur spinal cord injury. Macropolarization has been shown to be a promising aspect in the regulation of the inflammation disease in nervous system. Active macro contain inflammation-induced M1 and immune-regulated M2 subtypes. Effective conversions of M1 and M2 plays an active role in neuroinflammation events. GLP-1 is an endogenous enteropeptide. This is a receptor. Let's read the results. The number one, to identify the specific cell expressing the GLP-1, the count of control numbers was retracted. The IF picture showed that the GLP receptor largely overlapped with the neuron and the IBA1. The increased impression of the COX-2 after LPS treatment was also decreased by EX4 treatment. EX4 treatment increased the level of PI3K in the inflammation macro. Number two, a hot map showed a different expression gene in LPS activated macro that were permitted with EX4 or not. This picture, based on DEJS and all genes, the gain enrichment of GO and KEGG analyze reflects the schedule of the secondary functions in the three backgrounds. Number three, Western blots further showed the decreased annulus expression and increased CD20 and 6 expression were reversed after EX4 treatment in the LPS statement. The inflammatory macro was reversed after ARAP3 retransference. The corrective effects of the GLP-1 receptor activates on the polarization of the macro subtypes was reversed by the ARAP3 transferase. Number four, culture between primary macro and the neurons. This picture. Number B, the reactive estrus cultured with LPS stimulator is better reduction also of the GFP and the neural nesting. Transfer, this picture, the transfer also found the LPS isomers increased the migration of the macroneuron. The number 4, the expression of the ARP3 was esteemed with a weak post-spinal cord injury. This one showed the ARP3 expression was reduced at 6 hours post-injury. Double overlapping of the MBA1 ARP3 this picture. MBA1 and ANOS, MBA1 and CD 2006 obtained from the nautical sections centered around the central canal. This picture, the image showed in the larger injury area had more glial scarring as well as fewer neurons and neural emanations surrounding the injury focuses in the spinal cord injury groups when compared with these sham groups. The number 6, spinal cord injury induced excessive damage reaches centers in the injury count, whereas administration of the GLP-1 receptors against significantly reduced. The EMI, this picture EMI results show the dramatic reductions of the actions and significantly increased of non-event action. The last one, the MRI, this picture showed the gentle ply and show the defective tissue area in the ES4 tissue mass was decreased when compared with that in the untreatment mass at 20 and 80 days. The swimming test results showed the 18 days muscle treated with ES4 occasionally swim with their hands naps to keep the balance. Conclusion, after spinal cord injury, the markers different into MY sublet cells, resulting neural inflammation followed by aspirins. However, GLP-1 receptor actives receptor macropolarization to the M2 sublets to attenuate inflammation repress. The GLP-1 receptor against rescue the ARAP3 expression by increasing its upstream PR3K and further inhibit RHA activation. Inhibition of ARAP3 showed a significant anti effect on the GLP-1 receptor activation induced anti-inflammations. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful presentation.
So myself, Alankriti Singh from HPTU Kanpur. I'm pursuing MTech from there. And my topic of presentation is effect of photocatalytic nanocoating on shelf life of tomatoes. Then, screen reset was there. No. Okay. So so according to CIFIT, the fruits and vegetable percentage that is 18%, which is wasted every year, which costs about 13,300 million. Because of these studies, the interest on this topic arises. Then my focus is on this presentation is only on tomatoes. So tomatoes are metabolically active, perishable fresh commodities, having short shelf life and are highly fragile, leading to high incidence of post-harvest diseases. So numerous published reports have already illustrated and used the nanomaterial-based films and coatings to reduce the post-harvest decay and to improve the biochemical and microbial spoilage capacity of fruits and vegetables. Then nanomaterial-based coatings also improves mechanical, thermal, and barrier properties. Beside the biochemical aspects of fruits and vegetables, that's why it is more preferable. Then the general principle which belongs behind the use of this nanoparticle here is a photocatalysis, which is the change of chemical reaction or its initiation under the action of ultraviolet rays, infrared waves, or radiation, or in fact some of the nanoparticles act in presence of normal light. Visible light also in presence of the substance. The photocatalyst that absorb light is involved in the chemical transformation of the reaction. So here in the figure, as you see, the transition metal oxide, which is act as a photocatalyst of nanocoating solution, which actually I am using is the outer coating of our fruit or a fresh commodity, which produce reactive oxygen species (ROS), and which on further degrade the pollutants like bacterial cell wall, which comes in contact with the fruits and vegetables up to certain limit of time. And in the figure, the whole process is also depicted. Then this is some data belong to this, which show that there are various nanoparticles which are already included in the various label coatings and used to preserve various different types of fruits and vegetables. So these are few examples. Then the objective of my work is to study the coating containing nanoparticles to extend the shelf life of tomato after harvest. So TMOs or transition metal oxides in nanoform are used to prepare this coating solution, which I am using. So actually it is for the patent, it belongs to a company's patent patent. And sorry, I forget to mention the name. That is Vajros solution. The nanocoating solution induces the production of reactive oxygen species in presence of light through photocatalytic process, which participate and affect the physiological and cellular process of microbes. This is my first experiment, which I have mentioned here. These are the material required. Vajros A and Vajros B are two constituents of the solution, which are mixed after mixing our water into them and prepare the actual solution or the coating solution, which we are going to coat out. And these are few glass shells and equipment and other materials like plastic filling machine, cutters, and other things. Then firstly we bring the this is a simple procedure. Firstly we bring tomatoes from market, wash them, and leave them for drying. Then randomly selected 9 tomatoes from lot, prepared 20 ml coating solution of 0.1x and 0.2x concentration. Actually these are dilutions of the actual solutions which we used. Then we sprayed the first 3 tomato with 0.1x nanocoating solution, then sprayed the next 3 with 0.2x, and the remaining 3 are uncoated and kept as control to observe the impact or effect. Leave them for drying and keep all tomatoes in polythenes in case of airtight condition, and in case of dry condition we keep them in table by tagging and arranging them. Then divide the, in case of airtight condition, we use polythenes and divide the polythene in 9 sections, seal them completely, and also tag here too, so that to distinguish the control 0.1x and 0.2x. Then whole set is kept on table again, and our observation is initially basically focus on the daily changes in the appearance of fruit or vegetable. So we take daily picture of our tomatoes. So okay. So here's the result and discussion. I'll come to this slide after showing this, this is the first experiment which we conducted on dry by maintaining the dry condition. As you see, on the first day, the tomatoes are kept, and in the last day, they are they are shrinked. Beside of spoilage or other things, we observe that they got shrinked out. So and these are the 0.1x and 0.5x and 1x concentration, the first experiments we conducted. And this is a second experiment which is conducted on the other two dilutions, that is 0.2x and 0.1x of our actual solution concentration. Then these are results, like a shrinkage in the first one figure start from day 4th onward, and the shrinkage and 1x and 0.5x start from day 5th onwards. So we get a 1 day profit, but that was not too much positive impact. Up to day 7th, shrinkage in all samples appear in the second figure, and that is like showing that it is not an effective way to use it in open condition, this method. So that is all kept. That is all mentioned below. Then we airtight packed these tomatoes for the experiment, and the same procedure is followed as we follow in the dry condition. And here we observe that the spoilage occurred in both sample 0.5x and control, but the difference is this, that the control every time, like in the first case and in the next case too, every time the spoilage occurred and bursting occur in control is due to the spoilage, which initially started from here onward, and then it start increasing, and then after that it got bursted out. But in case of 0.2x sample, it also bursted, but there was no such spoilage seen here. And same thing happened here too, that in control you see the white color fungal growth here in the tomato, but in sample 0.5x there was no such growth. Yes, due to over ripening, here too they got bursted on day 15th. So bursting is almost on not taking too much time. Like there was a slight difference of not gaining much time, but we gain one positive thing is that we gain like microbial infection. We prevent those things on tomato. There were some these are some results which I already discussed in the next one. Next figure are mentioned here only. So in the above figure, we concluded few things which I want to mention here, that actually the drawback which we analyze after conducting these experiments is that they doesn't show much significant difference in shell size, maybe due to the reason that we have collected tomatoes from nearby market. So because of that, we can't say this surely that all set of samples used are harvested at the same time, in which implies that bursting may occur in each individual at different times and maybe at the same time. So there may be a possibility that bursting of coated tomato occur with control because they are harvested earlier than the control one, or vice versa. So the another drawback which we need to cover in the future experiments is to get the accurate result is that tomato must be taken directly from the farm, which we can't do this time. So choose the one harvested and also choose the one which are harvested at the same time. These are the few noticeable things, and then the conclusion. So basically, in the end, I just want to conclude out that why we conduct this experiment, these experiments, and without having such any biological calculation connected with these things. So that our motive and way of conducting these coating experiment on tomato is to increase the shelf life of tomato without controlling and maintaining the other parameters like temperature, pressure, and or all other things, relative humidity, which we used to maintain. Usually we kept a tomato in fridge and other things. And the reason is being that to make it cost effective and easily implement and usable to the stakeholders, small stakeholders and farmers, so that they can easily keep tomatoes without cold storage and other physical parameter controlling conditions for some longer time, and reduce post-harvest losses in tomato, directly profitable to the initial producer. And this could this will actually directly profitable to initial producer. The initial work which I actually have done is basically focused on collecting data output from different types of fruits and vegetables, and this is part of that one. These are preliminary experiments done to support or authenticate the future experiments conducted by taking reference of this data. That's why we collect, and we have taken only 9 samples, but in future we will do it. We will do this by relating this data. We will conduct further biochemical and physical parameter analysis too, so that we get more accurate results. The best part of our nanocoating solution is that antimicrobial action through the process of photocatalysis, and our result, that is images, are clearly indicated that every time when bursting occurs, there is always white colored microbial growth appear on the surface of tomato of controlled sets. Then after bursting occur, whereas in coated tomatoes, bursting occur in few cases, but there is no microbial growth appear. And these are few references. And thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful presentation.
So my title of paper is bimetallic mixed metal oxide in fusion with nitrogen doped graphene oxide. It's an alternative approach for developing a potential biocarrier. Okay, so previously the antibiotics were used to control the bacterial and fungal disease. So after development of nanotechnology, so nowadays the metal nanomaterials are used to make many antimicrobial agents to treat the bacterial and fungal different microbial diseases. The broad spectrum of metal nanoparticles that incorporate silver, gold, and copper, and some other nanoparticles are mostly used in medical field. There is a considerable interest in using metal oxide as an antimicrobial or anti-cancer agent due to their performance, excellent performance, enhanced properties, low relative cost, and their extensive application in different field. And mainly the copper oxide nanomaterials have received more attention than other metal oxides because their excellent antimicrobial properties due to their physical and chemical properties. And even the low level of copper oxide nanomaterials have produced the most significant antibacterial effect on gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. And in addition, the copper oxide nanoparticle also used to treat cancer. Because it's have cancer, anti-cancer characters. Next one is nickel oxide. The nickel oxide has another metal oxide nanoparticles. Some studies showed that the low dose of nickel oxide nanoparticles have very low toxicity against lung cancer cells. When we increase the higher concentration of nickel oxide doses, they increased cytotoxicity against lung cancer cells. So in this work, first we synthesized nanomaterials, and then we characterized using morphological and structural analysis. So further, we evaluated the antibacterial property against gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. So finally, the cytotoxicity of nanocomposite was studied against human lung cancer cells. Okay, first we synthesized the nanomaterial. So then we characterized using structural analysis. Okay, first one is XRD. The XRD the XRD method. Okay, first one is the XRD. XRD method was used to analyze the crystalline nature of the nanomaterials. Okay, so here there are some intense peak. Okay, the intense peak were appeared at various plans representing the crystalline plans of the metal oxides, mainly nickel oxide and copper oxide. So this result confirmed the presence of copper oxide and nickel oxide in the prepared sample. The second one is FTIR. The FTIR spectroscopy was performed to analyze the molecular configuration of the nanomaterials. Okay, the peak, mainly the peak at approximately at 490 centimeter, and what about here? This is approximately 600 centimeter. Indicate the copper oxide vibration character, but this one is nickel oxide vibration characters. Okay, this result confirmed the presence of nickel oxide and copper oxide in the prepared sample. So third one, XPS. XPS is carried out to examine the elemental elemental composition of the nanomaterial. Okay, this is this is survey scan. This is individual scan. Okay, the survey scan confirm the appearance of different elements. Okay, nickel oxide and copper. Okay, nitrogen, and it confirmed the different elements in the prepared sample. So this is individual scanning also confirm the presence of the different elements. Okay, so next one is morphological analysis by TEM and SEM, transmission electron microscope and scanning electron microscope. The two electron microscope confirmed the morphology and size of the nanomaterials. Okay, this TEM result, transmission electron microscope result revealed the large assembly of nanocomposites, and so the hexagonal bifractum shaped particles agglomeration distributed with graphene sheet. Okay, this is graphene sheet. This is nickel oxide nanoparticle. This is copper oxide nanoparticle. Okay, this is transmission electron microscope result. And what about this one is SEM, scanning electron microscope result. Also a similar result like TEM. Okay, this is EDX analysis. The EDX analysis, the elemental composition was determined through EDX analysis. Okay, here showed nickel oxide, okay, nickel and copper and oxide. So this EDX analysis result confirmed the presence of different elements in the prepared sample. Okay, so further, after synthesize the nanoparticles, then we characterized. Finally, we used this nanomaterials to treat different bacterial disease. Antibacterial activity. We checked antibacterial activity. The antibacterial activity was investigated by treating different bacterial disease. Okay, E. coli. We used E. coli, Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus cereus, 3 different pathogenic bacteria. And so by a disk diffusion assay method. Okay, so we use first see this first one is control sample. There is no activity. Then we used a different concentration of the sample. Okay, low concentration. Yeah, we increase the concentration of samples. Yeah, fourth one is high concentration of nanomaterial. And in the 3 cases, the high concentration showed excellent antimicrobial activity, antibacterial activity. When we compare with other 2 gram-positive bacteria, the E. coli showed greater high inhibitory zone compared with other bacteria. So this result indicate okay the greater inhibitory zone in E. coli observed. So due to the thin peptidoglycan layer. Actually, the gram-negative bacteria have thin peptidoglycan layer. So this thin peptidoglycan layer enable the nanomaterials to penetrate the cell membrane easily and disrupt the cells. Okay, cells, and finally it will kill the bacteria. Compare than gram-positive bacteria. The gram-positive bacteria have thick thick cell wall, so it's not possible to, it's not easy to penetrate. It will take more time to penetrate and kill the bacteria, but gram-negative bacteria will easily enter inside the cells and kill the bacteria. Okay, so finally we confirmed the cytotoxicity. Okay. The cytotoxic effect of the nanocomposite was evaluated against human cancer cell. Okay, this result showed we used different concentration of the nanomaterials, okay, from low to high concentration. But what about the result clearly showed the low concentration of nanocomposites with high viability, cell viability, and low toxicity. But what about high concentration have low viability and a high toxicity? Okay, it increased the when we increase the concentration of the samples gradually, it's increase the cytotoxicity. Finally, okay, more high concentration have more than 90% toxicity. Okay, so this one is conclusion. So first we synthesized the nanomaterials, okay, using a two-step process in which nitrogen doped graphene oxide and then fused with metal oxide, bimetallic oxide, nickel oxide and copper oxide. Okay, so after synthesis, we characterized the synthesized nanoparticles using morphological analysis and structural analysis. What about structural analysis of nanocomposites revealed its crystallinity and chemical composition. And then we used the electron microscope, scanning electron microscope and transmission electron microscope. We confirmed the morphology and the size of the nanomaterials. The size is 130 nanometer. And what about morphology? Hexagonal. Okay, sorry, hexagonal bifrustum shape. Okay, so then further the synthesized nanocomposites was evaluated through disk diffusion assay to determine its antibacterial activity. So when we compare three different bacteria, the E. coli showed high activity, antibacterial activity. Okay, so the nanocomposites also we tested anti-cancer activity. So the nanocomposites also underwent analysis to determine its anti-cancer property and cytotoxic effect in order to access the ability to disrupt the cancer cells. Okay, this study showed the synthesis nanocomposite as excellent antibacterial and anti-cancer agent. Therefore, we highly encourage its incorporation in pharmaceutical and biomedical product. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation.